This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Trust but verify. I'm sure you've heard it. Ronald Reagan, former American president, said it about Mikhail Gorbachev, the former president of the USSR, the country before Russia. As a quick side tangent, I once had a chance to meet Mikhail Gorbachev. I've talked about that on this podcast. I've shared it in my books. One of my favorite experiences. But I bring up trust but verify because it is a critically important thought process for success. Trust but verify. If you meet a random stranger, that random stranger could be a very interesting person who's made himself $1 billion and could be your friend. It could be a scam artist. But it's up to you to jump in. You can't go through life just avoiding people. How the hell are you going to achieve? You have to build a network. You have to meet and greet. You have to shake hands. You have to get out there and make it happen. Somebody asked me recently, how do I get podcast guests? They thought there was some big process, and I've got some whole team. No, it's simple. I've interviewed a lot of interesting people over a very long period of time. I'm pitch guest all the time, but I also know a lot of interesting people. So if it strikes my fancy to ask somebody to appear, which I do all the time, a lot of very well-known names, and if I do it humbly and I do it respectfully and I make them look good, which generally I have people in this podcast that I like their thought process, so they're going to look good. As another side tangent, I must say, back in the early days of this podcast, I did get fooled by a couple people. A couple scammers made it onto my podcast. They are not there to be found now. But that is a challenge, even for me back in the day. Trust but verify. I thought I was trusting these people to come on the podcast. I was. And I thought I was verifying, but I really wasn't. Because even though we might have these wide networks online, a lot of people sneak into these networks, and they're bullshit artists. They're scammers, the manipulators. And they work their way into getting close to people. Now, I'm fortunate, having done this for a long time, I've got a lot of gatekeepers to my process. For example, if I'm pitched a guest by HarperCollins, the publisher, that's a big deal. They've done their due diligence a little bit, just a little bit, and then I will apply my due diligence. But if the guest lead is coming from HarperCollins, hey, there's a trust part there already. But I still got to verify, because not everything is always clean. And that applies to any publisher. I'm not talking about Harper's. It could be Wiley. It could be Harriman House. It could be McGraw-Hill. Anybody. And speaking of trust but verify, it's up to you to trust me and verify me. How do you do that? There's 8 books. There's 1,200 podcast episodes. There's 5,000 blog entries. The particular guests that have appeared on my podcast, those names say something if you've got a pulse and if you understand that. And of course, I meet the basic requirements. I've not been in jail. I've not been investigated by the SEC or prosecuted by the SEC or any of that other bullshit that you see scammers are involved in. Like the fat kid that did all the Bitcoin scamming. Or like Madoff. I mean, those folks that looked into Madoff, what kind of due diligence did they do? Even some of the richest people in the world making $1 million investments, hundreds of millions of dollars in investments. They did zero due diligence. They trusted, but they did not verify at all. But it's really critical that you verify the right stuff. Some people get caught up in the bullshit. They want to verify all the wrong things. Verification is about common sense and looking for weaknesses, looking for holes, looking for things that might come back to bite us in the ass. And if you can't find those, and there's enough social proof around a particular individual, then roll the freaking dice. Stop being a scaredy cat. Get in the damn game. Get your network built. Meet interesting people. Back to this podcast, I'm actually pitched, even by big publishers, I'm pitched guests that when I do my due diligence, it's not that some of these guests that I turn down are bad people. I don't know, frankly, one way or the other, but it's their gravitas. There's no meat on the bone. It's like a bullshit subject. If you just want to tell me about leadership, if you just want to tell me about strategic guidance or some consulting, the buzzwords don't mean shit. Let's break it freaking down. When I first started investigating trend following, my process was simple. Trust, but verify. So if I happen to have met many well-known people in the trading space, which I did, then I would assume if they had a public track record, I would assume if they had been out there in the media, so to speak, for years and years, I would assume at a base level, they may be okay. Key, may be. How can I know for sure? Now, I won't go into too much detail because I do this in my book, The Complete Turtle Trader, because one of the turtle traders turned out to be not exactly what he says he is. And to this day, that particular individual fools people. The last piece of media that I saw on that individual, he was being arrested. But there is a major publisher that puts his books out there that doesn't give a shit that he might be in jail right now. Again, trust but verify. If you're not doing that, how do you get through life? I mean, if you flip on Zero Hedge or you flip on Bloomberg or you flip on CNBC and the headlines are all provocative, working you up about something. Okay, I guess trust the headline if you want to waste your time, but you got to verify it. And how the hell do you verify an opinion that some market is going to go up or down? Some stock jockey out there says XYZ market will go up or down. Are you really sitting there listening to that and believing that bullshit? In 2023, are you that fucking stupid to sit there and believe that somebody on some media channel can tell you where a market is going to go? You believe that? You're stupid. I can't be any more blunt. If you think there is somebody out there that can tell you which way a market is going to go, that means you have ignored all of history. It means you're a fucking moron. Can I say it any more harshly? You're a freaking zero. You're a loser. I feel like now the Anchorman scene. Wow, that got hot fast. It's true. Predictions are for fucking losers. Back to my opening salvo. Trust but verify. Okay, if you want to, for sake of argument, believe the headlines, trust them. But you're not verifying. If you're not verifying, what's wrong with you? There's a deep-seated psychological problem with you if you trust but you don't verify. There is something wrong in your brain. The gray matter ain't right. The synapses ain't connected. You have got an issue. You need help. And of course, if somebody believes the prognosticators, if they believe the opinion makers, if they believe the prediction experts, if you've already made it to that point where you believe it and you're not going to verify it, well, my friends, enjoy the blue pill because you've swallowed it. You've swallowed it hard and you got no idea what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right. You got no freaking clue. You don't operate from a base level of logic. You have no idea what science is. You've given up. You're just a cult member, a tool, a useful idiot that helps the opinion polls. Now, me, myself, I try to stay at that trust but verify, because every instance in my life where I have trusted but not verified, it's bit me in the ass. Bit me hard. I've probably shared this story in this podcast before, but I once had a situation where I came across a scammer. And at the same time I came across this scammer, another individual that I knew came across this scammer. And the other individual that I knew that came across the scammer had a much higher station in life than me, meaning he was much more successful. A very big name. But I saw this scammer immediately. I could see through this scammer. I could see through him. It was obvious on the first handshake that this motherfucker was a motherfucker. It was so obvious. Now, that doesn't mean my other friend who happened to come across this scammer was dumb or silly or anything like that. He just didn't see it. He was trusting and he didn't verify. And he's a great individual, one of the most influential people on my life. And I remember he asked me, "What did you see, Mike?" Because I didn't see it. What did you see? That's a tough question. I feel like I have great instincts. Maybe it goes back to sports. Because with sports, it's on the field, you see it, and you can't hide it. For me, I played baseball. If you can hit the ball, you can hit the ball. If you can't hit the ball, you can't hit the ball. Now, as I get older, I don't find sports analogies and sports metaphors so great, to be honest with you. I think we all waste a lot of time on sports these days. It's become the male soap opera, so to speak. But in this example, it was a useful tool for me to try to explain, perhaps, to this individual how I could spot the scammer. There's just something not real about scam artists. You can see it on their face. I mean, listen to guests on this podcast, like, for example, Tom Basso, or Jerry Parker, or Peter Borish, or Larry Height, or Salem Abraham. There's something down to earth. There's something basically real about these people. And even though you've not met them in person, that realness comes across on audio alone. But the scammers, it's not like that. The scammers are always working on an angle. There's something magical that they have, and they want to push you into a certain area, and they want to lock you down. It's never about freedom. They always want to control you. The scammer always wants to control you. If someone wants to control you, they are not your friend. They're not your friend. They're not your business partner. They're not your girlfriend. They're not your wife. They're not your husband. If someone wants to control you, get the fuck out of the room. Get the hell out of the room. Why do you want to be controlled? If you're being controlled, you're being used. If you're being used, you're a tool. And if you're a tool, well, let's be honest, you're a useful idiot. So back to my point about figuring out trend following. It was quite a challenge, but I was very lucky to have several things in my holster if I was going to verify an individual. For example, with trading, I could look to performance track records. I could look to media reports. I could look to disclosure documents on file with the government. And I could look to in-person meetings. And one last thing, I could look at their network. Because if you start to build a network, then networks start to overlap. Again, you can still find bad actors that work their way into networks, but eventually the network gets strong. And there's protection in the network. There's a moat around the network. This is what it's about, trust but verify. Let me take it in a slightly different direction. Not much different, but a little extra muscle to my thought process today. I want to reach out to Professor Richard Feynman, no longer with us, but a Nobel Prize winner nonetheless, a physicist by training. To quote him, "It is imperative in science to doubt. It is absolutely necessary for progress in science to have uncertainty as a fundamental part of your inner nature. To make progress in understanding, we must remain modest and acknowledge what we do not know." What a great line. He's saying trust but verify in a different way. But he's right back to the key point. Verify. Yes, there's going to be uncertainty. Yes, there's going to be risk. Yes, there's going to be unknowns. But you damn well have to try to verify. And if you've turned your brain off and you will just trust anybody. And look, I have guests that come on this podcast who I can tell if I bring up certain subjects, they will crack. They will absolutely crack. Because one of my favorite exercises I do with every guest that comes on this podcast, I often see their digital copies of their books. I search their books for politics. I want to know where they stand. And it's amazing how many people, smart professors, will put highly charged political nonsense in their books. Stuff they can't verify, stuff that is clearly opinion, and then they treat it or act like it's science. So one of the challenges I have often with guests is, do I want to make my podcast all about that? Many of these people are very smart. They've spent their life studying a very niche subject, and there are things we can learn from them, even if they have batshit crazy political opinions that they can't verify. Right back to the word verify. It's all about verify. Another one from Professor Feynman that I like a lot. We must be careful not to believe things simply because we want them to be true. No one can fool you as easily as you can fool yourself. That's many people when I see their books. They want this batshit crazy political stuff to be true. They want Russian agents in every corner, fooling Americans into making bad decisions and scaring everybody. They want the virus, whatever that virus might be. They want the virus in every corner. Now, if I ask a simple question like, who did the virus kill? That's a simple question. Who did the virus kill? Did the virus kill everybody? No, it did not. Who did the virus kill? It typically killed people over 70, over 80, with 4+ and often 10+ comorbidities. Most of them were morbidly obese. Does that sound like the general population to you? No, it's not. That's an example of me, Mike, verifying. And I don't really care if you or one of my guests does not want to accept the facts. We are all entitled to have opinions. But where the freak are we in society, in civilization, if we all got our own facts? We are in Looney Tunes if we all got our own facts. And as I said on my monologue last week, stick to the data. Because if you got the data, even if you got crazy people in your life telling you, no, that's not true, that's not true, if you've got the data, you trust the data. And you turn off the talking heads, you turn off the voices, you just don't care. Because you've done your verification. You don't need some idiot on TV, some idiot on the internet, some idiot on cable news. You don't need their verification. You don't need their words of wisdom to you to let you believe what you already know. You don't need them. You've done the verification. Another one from Feynman that I really like: students should be made to think like scientists, be open-minded, curious, and especially to doubt. Well, he's singing the praises that we should all sing there, but I've already established, and he knows this too, even though he's not around, what percentage of people are going to think like scientists and be open-minded and curious, and especially to doubt. What percentage of people? My guess, less than 40%. It's probably less than 30%. So if less than 30% of a population is actually alive and not comatose and not a useful idiot, how much of an advantage do you have to make a bloody fortune? How much of an advantage do you have to get ahead if the vast majority of the population are simpletons, morons, fools, idiots, brain dead. How much of an advantage do you have? You've got a freaking major advantage. You're already off to the races. You're already ahead. They're never going to catch up. They're too busy walking around arguing about what the definition of a woman is. Does a woman have a penis? Does a woman not have a penis? Can you imagine how many people, after humanity has existed for so many millennia, that we have people wasting their time debating whether or not a woman can have a penis or not? But guess what? For us people that want to get ahead, I say go for it. If there's billions of fools over here having the debate about women and penises, my God, let them go. Let them go for it. They'll be dead before they know it. I mean, look, that's how life is. You get one shot. You get one damn shot. So if you want to blow your wad, if you want to blow your time on a bunch of bullshit, hey man, go for it. You're going to be a winner. Another one that I like from old Professor Feynman: you should, in science, believe logic and arguments carefully drawn and not authorities. Again, part of my point in this podcast today, authorities. How the hell do people wake up and trust authorities? I don't get it. Maybe this was something that was instilled in me as a kid. I've never trusted authorities. The very definition of authority is somebody looking to oppress me. Someone who doesn't have to explain themselves, who can just attempt to put the boot on the nape of my neck and press down, and I can't question them. That's authority. And you respect authority? What's wrong with you? Now, if authority is in a situation like government, in the sense that we can't change it, we can't fix it, and we have to deal with it, that's something else. But the authority of somebody giving you financial prognostications or media prognostications, again, trust but verify. We are all lucky that Reagan threw that clip out there all those years ago, trust but verify. It doesn't even make a difference whether he was right or wrong to say it in the context that he was saying it. It was the lesson that he was giving us all. Because when you can use so few words to give such a brilliant lesson, you have a chance to change history. You have a chance to change minds. You have a chance to teach. You have a chance to persuade, a chance to bring people to your side. And look, that's fun. That's fun for me. It's one of the reasons I do what I do. The podcast, the books, the website, sharing information, sharing insights, sharing a way of thinking is fun. I share, I get feedback. I get feedback, I share. It's a loop. It's great. This kind of thing makes life fun. Once this podcast is posted, I'll get feedback. People will tell me, Mike, I like that, or Mike, I didn't like that. I mean, I've got cranks out there who will review this podcast and they will review my monologues, me speaking like this. Oh, that guy Covel, he's crazy. He's too agitated. He's this, he's that. Do you think I care? Hell no. Block. I don't live my life for them. I don't know who they are. They're anonymous strangers. Who gives a shit? All you can do is give it back. And as I go out today, I want to give two back. Two kind of unrelated to where I've been today, but still damn important. Motivational as hell. First, never say, that's not my job. That oozes arrogance and laziness. Chip in to help with what needs to be done, even if it's not your responsibility. Do what needs to be done or help someone find the solution, period, even when nobody's watching. And there's a version of that I remember hearing with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Side tangent, meeting Steve Wozniak in Saigon's airport, taking a red-eye flight to Tokyo. How crazy. But those early days of Apple, and I'm sure it's stayed close to the same now, they worried about what the inside of their products look like, the stuff that you can't even see. So even when nobody's watching, even when nobody can see, they're making sure the inside is perfect. Whereas today, you could surely open up some electronic gizmos and it's going to be a rat's nest. But I love that. Never say, that's not my job. One last one from Professor Feynman, a little more motivational. Do not use your energy to worry. Life is too short to worry about stupid things. Have fun, fall in love, regret nothing, and don't let people bring you down. Study, think, create, and grow. Teach yourself and teach others. How fabulous that we get such a brilliant mind who left us so much wisdom. As I read that wisdom from Professor Feynman, please don't mistake my passion. Please do not mistake my gusto, my energy for being too worried, because I'm not. I'm pretty chill. I mean, I've got the life hacks. I've mentioned these many times. Exercise just removes worry. We're not smart enough to get rid of worry. You might be out there thinking, oh, I can remove worry from the system. I can remove worry from me. No, you can't. You can exercise it out, maybe. You can meditate your way out of it, maybe. But at least that gives you a chance. You can't think your way out of it. That'll just take time. Then maybe you'll forget what the problem is. But the hack is, if you're worried about something, if you're too anxious about something, break a sweat right now. And whatever that worry is, I guarantee you it will be gone. Look, at the end of the day, we have to treat ourselves as dumb stumps. Dumb stumps like a tree stump, meaning we need basic tools and systems to get us through the day. We ain't so smart. And when you do meet the smartest people, you find out they have these basic rules. They have these basic principles. And that's how they manage. And if you could have basic rules, if you could have basic principles, and you could have a certain consistency, that gives you a platform to create from, a platform to make big things happen from. Or, as I've said throughout this episode, you can be a fucking useful idiot. Your call. Take the platform, get rid of the worry, make big things happen, or be a useful idiot. It's your call. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.